Now that we've finished our black outlining, what we need to do next is to add some colour. And we're going to add flat layers of colour using soft pastels. And the soft pastels I'm using are Ashby soft pastels. And they work really well on this surface of velour paper. And what we need to do is just look at the dark, medium and light tones. In this case, in the tiger, it's predominantly orange, brown and some creamy white. So what we'll do first of all is, using an orangey brown colour, we'll gently stroke in the darker elements. So for example, the top of the head and around the ears. Now notice what I'm doing is using the flat of the pastel but stroking very gently. And once you've stroked a section, just brush it with your finger. This will take off any excess pastel, and also it'll help to create a nice soft furry look to it. And then we can bring that down into the nose and gently around the muzzle. Be very, very light with it. Barely touch the paper. What you can always do is add more, but it's easier to add than take off. And again around the eyes, just keep an eye on the photograph, look where all the darker orange bits of fur are, and leave the paper blank where it's lighter. And you can see already that by choosing this sandy coloured velour paper, it does help to give us an extra tone in there without having to use a pastel for that colour. So we're getting a dark and a light tone already just by using one coloured pastel. So that's pretty much the head and the ruff done, and then we'll bring it down into the shoulder. Again, it's only the darker elements, so we're only doing the outside of the shoulder and then down into the paws. Again, stroke it in with your finger. Try to stroke in the direction of the fur growth as well. This will all help to give you the correct shape. And work down that leg and the paw. Stroke down the leg and around the leg and the shoulder at the top. A little bit under the chin. And then onto the back. Now the belly is quite white, so we'll leave that as bare paper, and then stroke this colour all the way down the back, outside of that hind leg and the paw, and then stroke it with your finger. Notice when you stroke it with your finger, it gets a little bit lighter and shows some of the sand coloured paper underneath, which is perfect. And finally the other leg, a little bit of the paw, and stroke it. So that's our first colour. Next thing we're going to do is choose a medium tone. Now what I'm going to do is put in some browny grey here and there, particularly around the shadow areas of the belly, where the white is turning to grey because it's got shadow in it. So again, just stroke in the grey bits for the shadows of the white areas. Not too much here, a little bit on the tail as well. And maybe a little bit inside the middle of the chest, on the chin and into the ruff. Now you'll find that this nice grey colour will complement the browns and the oranges, so the two will go together, nice cool colours against warm colours. A little bit inside the ears too, and maybe a touch on the paws, the toes, here and there, just to balance everything out. Okay, that's our medium tone done. Finally, we'll do our light tone. Now the light tone in this case is a kind of Naples yellow. What you need to do is look at all the creamy white areas and give a base coat of this Naples yellow. And when you'll find when you add white on the top, this becomes a creamy ivory kind of yellow. Notice that I'm going over the initial black outline as well, and because the velour paper doesn't smudge easily, we're still maintaining that initial drawing, so don't worry about going over your initial black pastel. It will still be there. If there's any pure white at all, then leave that as bare paper, because when you add white at the end, these will be crisper. And now you can see how that's starting to shine against the orange brown. A little bit down the side of the leg there, soft highlight. And then onto the back, we've got some little bits of creamy fur just coming down the leg. Don't worry about this too much, let the colours blend together. Try not to separate them too much, otherwise you'll have distinct areas of orange, brown and yellow. You want everything to merge together. Okay, and that's the end of our underpainting. Now that we've finished our underpainting, let's concentrate on some of the more important details of our subject. And we're going to start with the eyes. The eyes, of course, are arguably the most important part of any wildlife painting. And the tiger's eyes, generally, they do vary a little bit, but generally are sort of greeny yellow colour. So what we'll do first of all, we'll take a mid-green. Again, this is a hard pastel. And we'll put a base coat in the coloured part of the eye, the iris. And make sure you get it all covered. And then gently push it in with your finger just to take the brightness off it, really. The next thing we need to consider are reflections and highlights. Now if we look at our photograph, we can probably see that the light is coming from our top right. So what we need to do first of all is to give a highlight to the coloured part, the iris, on the opposite corner, which is the bottom left. So just in that corner of each eye, pop a little bit of yellow on top of the green, just to give it a little sparkle. And again, push it with your finger so it's not too strong. And then the final part is the highlight itself. Now if this is a bright sunny day, then you need a bright highlight. If it's more misty overcast day, not such a bright highlight. In this case it was quite a misty morning, so we'll just do a gentle little highlight in the top right hand corner of the eye. That's where the sun, as it was, is coming from. And a little bit on that eye too. Just a wee bit. Okay, and then all that remains to be done is to gently stroke in the pupil, just a small little slit there, and then tidy up around the edge of the eye, the eyelids, and the tear duct. Be nice and careful with this because the eyes are going to be the focal point for your painting. And that's the eyes completed. The next thing we'll look at is the nose. Now cats mostly have pink noses, and that's true of big cats as well. So we'll take a dark rose pink, and again we'll give a base coat, an undercoat if you like, to the nose itself. So all over the nose, make a little pink heart shape like that. And then, of course, we need to give it some shadow and shape. Refer back to your reference photo. You can see this kind of Cupid's bow shape, which form the nostrils, and then down, a little bit of a slit in the nose coming down into the cleft on the top lip. Just sharpen everything up, and then you can continue that down to form the top lip. A rather serious look he has on his face. Little smudge with the finger. Maybe pop a little bit of shadow on the top there before we finish. That's eyes, nose and mouth done.